Hello, Contrarians listeners, watchers, subscribers. Here we are with yet another Contrarians post credits. This is our fourth installment in the summer of the MTV bangers, and we couldn't have planned it better, Alex. I know we didn't plan it. I know it just happens, and we kind of sort of acknowledge it in the main episode, but I feel like we didn't give it enough weight. So here we go. We are releasing an episode of Batman Forever pretty much less than a week away from the 30th anniversary, which was not something that was in my radar when we were thinking about which movies we're going to do. I was just thinking, what is Super 90s? Um, what is what could honor Val Kilmer's legacy? What would be fun to do?
What's made for our formula also.
Yeah. And that was, this is a pick from you. Like you ended up bringing this one into the main feed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until Corey brought it up earlier today when we were talking about this recording that he said it is the 30th anniversary. And I was like, that sounds like something that Alex might have mentioned when we were recording the episode. But
when I mentioned the release date, I think I made comment of, well, we didn't plan this, but yeah, it's we're almost recording to the day here of the 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
So the 16th.
That is, I mean, as of this recording, about a week away. This is Monday, June 9th. So let's pretend that this was this was meant to happen. But here we are, Batman Forever.
Did you say it's the third? Yeah, it's the 13th. That's weird.
Is it the 3rd or the 16th?
The 16th.
Okay, yeah.
Let's get to the bottom of this.
16th. Yeah. You're right. All right. Sorry, we have a Friday the 13th this week, so it's thrown off my whole internal clock.
Yeah,
I apologize.
Literally, I knew exactly where that disconnect was coming from. I got plans for this Friday.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, hopefully none of you have plans for the next 20 to 30 minutes because we're gonna give you the post credits for our Batman Forever episode. It is rotten on Tomatoes, so we're going to, in the main episode, praise it. Probably you already listened to it, but and then we'll tell you how we really feel in the second half. If you've listened to the show for a while, you know Alex and I, we are sweet on Schumacher's first Batman. Not so much on Schumacher's second Batman. I don't get as worked up about it as Alex does, but I agree that Batman Forever is a superior Joel Schumacher Batman and an overall movie that shouldn't. It deserves better than that rotten score of 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's kind of like your hints of where the real talk on the main feed goes. But here, we're joined by Batman Superfan Corey with his Batman Forever lighting there. You mostly know Corey as the power behind the scenes in these videos. When you see that logo, the Nerds,
the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. But also, if you saw our Highlander collaboration, Corey was a big part of that. So, Corey, you said you guys are doing Batman Forever. Can I jump in? And I said, of course, let's do this. So before we go into the post-credits proper, I guess tell us a little bit about your Batman Forever history. Like those that listen to the episode already know Alex's and I, but how about you? Like did you see it in theaters? Did you buy the soundtrack? Are you a U2 person? Are you a Seal person when it comes to the song? Give us a little backstory here.
Okay, so first off, in terms of soundtrack, Flaming Lips, okay?
Yes.
Like the scene where we first see Riddler's apartment,
Yep.
That song matched with those visuals is just fantastic. Like that is pop art, pop culture coming together in a way that like just as a kid spoke to me, because it's got like even the lyrics like, so you hate your boss at your job. And it's like, oh yeah, like this fucking just works on every level. You know what I mean? And but in terms of like my history with Batman Forever, unfortunately, I did not see it in the theaters. When I was younger, most of my movie experiences were on VHS just because like at our income level, going to the theater wasn't really something that happen that often. You know, again, like during Christmas, the family would go see a movie or something like that, but it was like a very special thing. So unfortunately, the first time I saw Batman Forever was the Christmas after it came out, where I got the VHS. And holy shit, our Christmas that year was a Batman Forever Christmas. Like, not only did we get the VHS, we got like action figures from the movie. We got beanbag chairs, which I don't have with me right now, but I'm going to put a picture up in the edit. I still have one of them. I slept on that fucker for a week afterwards, just falling asleep watching Batman Forever. So it goes without saying that, like, I'm very much aware of the flaws in this movie, but I am definitely a Batman Forever apologist.
I mean, at this point, do we even call ourselves apologists? Or are we just the ones that make sense? Are we sensible Batman fans?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an argument to be made there. And in general, I tend to have a different perspective on the Joel Schumacher Batman movies than other people do. Because, again, like you were saying, like, I'm the resident Batman guy, you know, here. And I've read more Batman comics than most people I know, including the period throughout the 1950s and the 1960s, which I wouldn't say are great Batman comics. But those are the books Joel Schumacher would have grown up reading. And when you watch these movies, it's very apparent.
Is it like a lot of like shots of the nipples and the Batman's butt, like in those comics?
Well, no, I mean, like that's a whole other thing. But okay, so here's my first tangent. For the record, the reason why the bat suits look like that in these movies is because Joel Schumacher like saw Batman and Robin as like the peak of physical human achievement, and therefore he based the suits on like Renaissance sculptures. So like Batman is modeled after the sculpture of David, which has nipples because he's shirtless. And I don't want to like, I'm a straight guy. I don't want to read too much into this, but Joel Schumacher also being like a gay dude, it's like, yeah, that's what he would think the peak of male physical perfection is. Like, he wants to see the nipples. Like, that is just a pure dominant male. And in his mind, that's kind of who Batman was. So it's like, I'm not going to say that it's a choice that I love, and I'm glad that the action figures don't have the nipples. But, you know, because I've got them, you know, I'm sure I'll show them here at some point. But, like, yeah, it's like I get where he's coming from, even though I don't necessarily think it's maybe the best choice in terms of making a family-friendly Batman movie. I do appreciate the sonar suit at the end of Batman Forever does not have nipples.
Well,
because it's got the big Frank Miller bat symbol.
I think as a kid, you don't really notice the nipples. Or if you do, it doesn't really register as anything sexual. As an adult, honestly, like I know about the nipples because that's just like the joke. But kind of like what we mentioned on the episode, like it's really like Val Kilmer. You cast Val Kilmer as Bruce Wayne, and it was like that's really the David of it. You know, the overall like hotness is just.
And the suit, we talk about the suits in Forever aren't quite what they are in Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin's a different beast. To your original question, though, I think we explore that question a bit more in the episode itself about what like in modern time constitutes like a Batman hot take. And I think now most people would say that like Batman Forever has merit. Whereas if we were having this discussion 20 years ago, basically pre the Nolan trilogy, I think people would still be like, oh, it sucks. And so like, Batman hot takes these days are kind of hard to come by. You got to say something like, we would joke around the episode. You have to say something like, Return of the Joker, Batman Beyond's the greatest Batman movie. That'll get you some cred on the internet.
That'll rile some people up.
Yeah, I mean it's good, but like it's fine. It's just I think now like Batman Forever has become a celebrated Batman film as opposed to kind of what its legacy had been previously.
That legacy, I mean, you're talking back when it came out, it made a lot of money, and then I mean, enough money to where they got they greenlit a sequel and they brought Schumacher back. So they brought O'Donnell back, right? Like we make fun of
$340
Chris
million.
Nolan, but
It did okay for itself.
yeah. So I mean, financially, that wasn't a problem. It's like just the critical backlash, I guess, that holds until today, right? Because if you're looking at just the traditional critics and even the popcorn meter on Rotten Tomatoes, it's still rotten. But then you get somebody that has a good time with Batman. You can have a conversation about Batman Forever that is pretty fun because there's
Yeah.
so much stuff that's fun in the movie. So let's take care of the negativity first, though. I have the consensus, and I have two rotten quotes to get through, and then we can go on with this conversation. But 39% rotten, as I said, that's a consensus. It reads loud, excessively busy, and often boring. Batman Forever nonetheless has the charisma of Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones to offer mild relief. There's nothing
Brother,
mild about those performances.
There's nothing mild or boring about this movie. I don't understand how, even if you don't like it, like it's 2 hours of flashiness and color and just it's like a fucking living Warhol in some cases, just like right in front of you. So yeah, boring is a very fascinating word to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is one of Schumacher's most visually interesting movies. Like, and again, I'm also kind of a Joel Schumacher apologist in a lot of sense. Like, a lot of times he is a director for hire, but when he makes something he really cares about, like Falling Down or Lost Boys or something like that, there is something very specific and interesting there. And I think in terms of visuals, like Batman and Robin, and he even said this, is a goddamn toy commercial. But this movie, like, you can clearly tell that he's trying to find that middle ground between the toy commercial and what he wants to do. And what he wants to do is just create a visual cornucopia of just insane, surreal, beautiful images. And I think the movie accomplishes that very well. So yeah, like, boring is not something I would like subscribe to this movie.
I'm looking at them right now too. There's even down to this movie had the 6 theatrical posters because it was the Batman Forever one where he's got him under his cape, the supporting cast, and then the 5 individual character posters that are all just like, there's no way you could walk past a single one of these in a movie theater on the street and not your head like a little kid get drawn back and just they just pop and they're so colorful. And yeah, boring is not a word I would use to, even for some of the faults I find in these. I never once watched at 2 hours even, so it breaks the Mattis rule. It flies by, and also it keeps your interest the entire time just based on the visual aspect alone. So I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Because they're both brought up in this consensus. Corey, are you a Jim Carrey guy or a Tommy Lee Jones guy? Who comes out on top when it comes to Batman Forever?
So, I mean, in general, if we're not talking about Batman Forever, I can't compare the two.
Right.
Okay? Like, Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey are completely different ballparks. And I love both of them. But I think that the one, and I still love the performance that is in the movie, but Tommy Lee Jones tries to play Jim Carrey's game. And if you do that, you are going to fucking lose. Like, you look at anyone who's ever co-starred with Jim Carrey, and they are never trying to match his energy or play his game. They are playing off of his game. And Tommy Lee Jones, because, again, he cannot sanction his buffoonery, he's trying to play that game too. And while it's very entertaining and I do really like the performance, I think that despite their behind the scenes bullshit, it comes together well. You can't touch Jim Carrey in this movie. Is he the Riddler as we know him? Not necessarily, but there is this melding of kind of the Gordon Riddler from the old 60s show. Yeah. And this version of the Riddler that is so potent because of what Jim Carrey brings to it that this movie would not be what it is without Jim Carrey in that role. So I have to give it to Carrey.
Does he look like Jim Carrey? or is he
The
just wearing the
figure?
costume?
What, the figure?
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, like, I've been very vocal about my dislike of some of the McFarlane DC like figures, but like, no, okay, like he looks like freaking Jim Carrey. In fact, all of them do. I've got all of them here. So like this fucker looks a lot like Tommy
yeah.
Lee Jones, you know, and like freaking Chris O'Donnell. Yeah, he's got the little domino mask, but look at those lips; they're so feminine, you know.
I'm just waiting
He,
for the Chase Meridian figure. Please tell me that that's
Rubber
coming up
lips.
next.
dude. No, I'm sorry. In action figures, female figures, if they're not in a superhero costume, they do not fucking sell. So McFarlane has no interest in them. So as much as I would love a like just smoke show fucking Nicole Kidman action figure, that's not something they offered to us. But again, Val Kilmer, look at those feminine lips. That's almost as good as a Nicole Kidman figure, right?
I mean,
Right?
it's only half, but yeah, I'll take it. All right, let's move on to the first rotten quote. This is from Mike Massey from Gone with the Twins, who says, "Everything that Burton established with the first two Batman films has been tossed out the window to make room for colorful neon lights and grossly comical character designs."
Well, we talk about in the episode, I think we call it out pretty early that yeah, there's like the float over of Alfred and Gordon and some of the casting and whatnot, and they make allusion.
Catwoman, they reference
Yes,
her.
Selena Kyle. Yeah. But this movie, I think, establishes pretty early that this is a different. Well, they do away with the fact that the Joker killed his parents, so like it's not the Tim Burton universe. I know all these fuckers today are obsessed with universes and shit, but this is just a different movie, man, with a couple of like winking nods and holdovers from the previous two. And yeah, the two Burton films also, I think, by and large, well, and Tim Burton's name's on this, so that probably confused people because I think doesn't he get the first credit, Tim Burton production?
Yeah.
And so I could see that confusing people to a certain extent, but dude, within the first 10 minutes, if you can't tell this is a different like game we're playing, then I don't know if I can help you out there.
Can I interject something? So,
Please.
for a long time, I had literally the same view that the Schumacher movies and the Burton movies are completely different universes that are just kind of like synced up. Been reading comics since I was like a kid, so like that's not something that is out of the ordinary for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But as an adult, when I've gone back and started watching these movies, each movie has two main keystones of progression. Mind you, almost all these movies, because Batman's villains are almost always more interesting than Batman within the scope of the movie.
Yeah.
So we focus on them. But something that, especially with this movie, even in the theatrical cut that I've noticed, is that there is a character arc that runs through all four movies for Batman, and a character arc or a developmental arc that runs through Gotham in all four movies. So what you see in the first Batman movie, the first Tim Burton movie, Gotham is an Art Deco slum that is based off 1970s New York. You know, it's Taxi Driver world plus Art Deco. And then in the second movie, you start seeing that, like, there are these big-ass statues that just protrude from the architecture. Like, it's so much more surrealistic. And Batman in that movie, while he is still slightly murderous, it doesn't come as easy to him because it's not like a one-to-one of revenge. And then in this movie, you start seeing Joel Schumacher's vision of Gotham, which is much more colorful. It's a world that has had Batman for several years, where Batman has been taking out the elements that stop the progression of the city. So the city is growing and maturing and becoming something different. While at the same time, Batman has started to realize that his murderous impulses, like his vengeance motivated mission, is not something that is actually helpful. He even tells Robin, like in that
I
one
hate
scene.
this so much. I hate this so much because it makes sense. Keep going.
Like he even tells Robin in that one scene, it's like, okay, so you kill Harvey, and then what happens? Your pain doesn't go away; it gets stronger. So you go out into the night looking for another victim, and like you do see that, like if you think of it more like James Bond as opposed to like a normal movie series that has the same actor running through, or like Batman is this figure that's ever changing and can be occupied by multiple actors given the version of the character they want to portray. There is a sense of development that goes through these movies, and Batman Forever is just, for me, in that sweet spot where it's before the toyeticness kind of overrides the storytelling, where like Schumacher is looking at the previous two movies and saying, what can I do with this world? What can I do with this character? And again, I've seen the Schumacher cut, so I know the other things that were supposed to be in this movie, but even the things that ended up in the final cut, you do see a development of this world and this character. So as I've gotten older and started looking at these more objectively, I've started to see that, like, no, while, yes, the Burton movies are very different, this is the same universe.
Well, see, the reason I hate it is because if I have to come to terms with it being the same universe, then there's a lot more holes that I can poke as in like, well, but then that doesn't make sense that he says this when in previous, and I get it thematically, you step back and you kind of look at the bigger picture, and that's how it makes sense, and you should not look deeper than that, just appreciate the continuity. Like, I hate to even try to imagine how this pans out then in Batman and Robin. Like, does that continue? Like, does Gotham reflect like an evolution in Batman and Robin? And
yeah, actually it does. Like, Batman and Robin is the culmination of Batman finally being comfortable with his identity and allowing that to shape the city in his image.
Alex is going to have nightmares tonight.
I do love, and I call this out in the episode, I do love that whatever your theory is of these four movies, as they go on, the buildings in Gotham get taller and taller to the point where they're basically in the clouds, and then statues get bigger and bigger. So I appreciate that we're just like on scale going up and up more and more.
A happier, more benevolent
progression.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess so.
All right. One more quote, also rotten, of course. Quentin Curtis from The Independent on Sunday says, "It's nice that the third man should provide a model for the third Batman, but a pity Batman doesn't have Graham Greene's narrative drive." As I read this quote, I remember that I said, okay, well, I should probably look into what the third man is about and who Graham Greene is, because I haven't seen it. Have either of you seen The Third Man? That's the one with Orson Welles, right? He doesn't direct it, but he's in it.
Oh yeah, The Third Man is fucking amazing.
Does he fake his death? That's what happens?
That is a plot point, yes.
Okay, well, nobody's faking his death here in Batman Forever. So, what's the correlation? Is Quentin Curtis just stretching, or is there a? Do you see the relation between the third man and Batman Forever?
Yes. But Alex, do you have anything you want to add before I go on another fucking TED Talk tangent?
No, I was just going to make a joke about the third man being Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach 1996.
Okay. But no, so first off, I have watched Batman Forever in black and white. And if you look at the cinematography between the two movies, despite the color that Joel Schumacher uses, he is very much grounded in that kind of impressionistic noir take that the third man utilizes in order to create atmosphere and vibe. Yes, it's a bit of a stretch, but I do see the correlation in terms of narrative. I would say stylistically, I see the correlation way more, especially with the exaggerated kind of expressionistic architecture and elements like that are at play in Batman Forever. I would say that like those things although I would like probably relate it more so to like again what Tim Burton was doing before, a distillation of like Fritz Lang's Metropolis. You know,
See, that one I can just buy without thinking about it. I was like, yeah, of course. Metropolis.
yeah, like
Yeah.
at the same time, the fact that in The Third Man, like that whole story is about a freaking pedophile murderer. It's a bit of a stretch, but I can see he's trying. Again, it's one of those things. This movie came out when comic book movies are not respected. So when you have a reviewer, whether it's back then or even now, talking about it, they need to come up with something lofty
Right.
to relate it to make them sound like they're talking about something important. So like, I get it, but like, come on, dude. Like, you're trying really fucking hard.
Please, if you will, just throw whatever pretentious comparison to a classic movie in the comments. Batman Forever is like Citizen Kane. All right, well, those are the quotes. Enough about the quotes. Let's move on to the next segment, trailer chatter. We watched the trailer, the classic trailer, not the classic for subsequent re-releases. This is according to Rotten Tomatoes, the classic 1995 trailer. And I'll start by saying that because I always look up the trailer when I'm setting up the web page for the previous episode. So when I was doing my cousin Vinny episode, I looked up the Batman Forever trailer so I could grab the link and put it at the end of that episode, the episode notes. And so I kind of watched some of it, like the first 30 seconds or so, and I was talking to a friend of the show, Eddie, and I was like, we're doing Batman Forever next. I'm pretty excited. I remember being positive about it last time I watched it, but I just watched the beginning of the trailer, and I'm starting to think that maybe I was wrong. I just watched the full trailer, right? Having watched the movie and having done the episode and all that, and no, it works. It's great. It's just that you have to know what you're getting into. I think I was still reeling from not having watched this movie forever when I first watched those first 30 seconds. It's tonally it's so different from the Burton stuff at first that it just like we say on the episode, like Jim Carrey is going so hard and Tommy Lee Jones is going so hard, and Nicole Kidman is gorgeous, but she's just like, hey, want to fuck?
They have that chicks dig the car line. I do love that the first shot of her in the trailer is that De Palma shot I call out. Yeah. Which is tickling. Yeah, this is a man. I can just see this playing in Blockbuster while you're roaming the halls, like the trailer that's meant to get your attention with the guy in a world. It's he said at the end. He's like, truth now, justice always, Batman forever. That's awesome.
Yeah, dude, the trailer fucking slaps. Like, yeah, it's been a while since I've seen this version of the trailer. I've watched the movie a bunch, but like, no, upon watching this, I'm like, oh no, yeah, I get why as a kid I was so excited for this fucking movie.
Yeah, when I was not, I probably mentioned this on the show at some point, Alex, but I was not a big fan of the Burton Batmans when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was just like I didn't get it. Like they were just so different from the Batman, the 60s show, which was the one that I had grown up with, and I had not read the dark Batman comics, so it was also very different from like the comics that I read Batman's. So then I saw this trailer, and this was more like my speed when I was younger. So just like you, Corey, I remember watching this and being just really excited. I was like, that looks, at least in some parts of the trailer, that looks like the Riddler. Maybe not when he's dressed in white with the crazy hair, but when he's doing the classic costume, and Two-Face looked scary and Robin looked awesome. So yes, I think that if you are not super connected to the Burton movie, this one gets you really excited really fast. I don't remember, and I mean, there's no way for me to know, like, what was it like if you were a fan of Batman 89, Batman Returns, and then you saw this trailer? You're like, wait, something doesn't quite add up. Do you think that there was like that disconnect? I mean, the movie still made a lot of money. Everybody showed up to watch it, but were people a little surprised maybe that this looked a little campier?
But they had to be. I think also it's a funny thing to view from through 2025 lenses of like, you imagine whatever beloved Marvel movie of yours, Julio, if they just released like another one and it was just completely different than what you had seen previous. It's just like that doesn't happen anymore. You know what I mean? And like Corey made reference to a little bit earlier, the comic book movies were not like really a thing. So you kind of just had to, I think a lot of people just accepted it on face value. By a lot of people, I mean like, the movie going public. It's just like, oh, now they're doing this instead, and the funny guy from Dumb and Dumber's in it. I don't think it's appreciated enough. Like how I think, man, can you imagine like imagine if after The Dark Knight, like someone took over the Batman franchise and made something like this that was pretty much passing it off as like a successor to what you had seen previously. Can you imagine the shit fits that would be had?
Brett Ratner's
literally the opposite of Zack Snyder.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's funny how probably at the time there were like people who are the age like we are now that weren't little kids that were like, oh fuck, another Batman movie, that were outraged by it and whatnot. But
but they still showed up to watch it.
Well, if they didn't, 5 other people did, because this movie made a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
I love the roll call when it starts. Just Val Kilmer as Batman, Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. It gives you everybody. Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase Meridian, and you're like, who is that?
Returns made $260 million, so more people showed up for this. It can't be understated that Jim Carrey was a box office phenom at that point in time. So right. I think that drove a lot of that. But yeah, I don't think people cared really about the tone shift, but it definitely would have been jarring. It still is.
For me personally, Batman Returns is my absolute favorite movie with Batman as a character in it. I say it that way because I don't think it's a good Batman movie, but it is a great Tim Burton movie with Batman in it. But people were so angry when that movie came out. We're talking about Happy Meal sales here.
Right.
And that is what dictated a lot. And I'm sure Alex might go into this in the trivia a little bit more, so I don't want to elaborate too much. But the decline in Happy Meal sales and toy sales from the second movie necessitated a change if they wanted to monetarily continue the kind of ongoing series of these films. And we now take it for granted, but in that first Batman movie, having Jack Nicholson as Joker was like an insane thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because the general movie-going public did not see comic book movies as real movies. They were disposable entertainment, the same way comic books were thought of by the majority of people at the time. So yeah, when they do this movie, and they did the same thing with the last one, Michelle Pfeiffer, Danny DeVito, those names were really big in the trailer and in all the promotion. And in this movie, just stacking that cast so that people who would never go see a Batman movie would be like, oh shit, maybe I do want to go see this movie. I mean, I loved The Fugitive, and and Ace Ventura is really fun. Dumb and Dumber is really fun. Maybe this will be a good time. It is the trailer is a clear attempt in terms of marketing to change public perception. I think it does a pretty good job of it, honestly. I wasn't old enough to really recognize all those things in the marketing, but if I take myself back to that period with what I now know about marketing, it's this was a smart move.
Actually, I hadn't even considered that it is also, it's meant to reassure people that we're disappointed that Batman Returns. Because just like you, I love Batman Returns. So I sometimes forget that there are a lot of people that just don't care for it. And those people, back in the mid 90s, they were probably reluctant to try a new Batman movie. And then this trailer comes out and was like, no, look, it's a lot of fun. It's nothing like Batman Returns.
Yeah,
Come on over.
because let's not mince words. Batman Returns is violent as hell, perverted as fuck, and super fucking dark.
Yeah.
Which is why it's my favorite Batman movie. But like, yeah, for a general audience, like Batman Forever is what the people wanted. I think very wholeheartedly.
Well, it worked. it
did.
definitely worked.
I've got McDonald's glass fucking mugs that can attest to that. Like, it worked.
Gotham
We
glasses.
use one to scoop cat food. That's how many I have of them.
I was hoping I was gonna ask my mom to send me a picture of this mug I have back in Peru. So it's at her house, but it was a Riddler mug. I'd forgotten about it until we were talking about it. Alex and I had this memory of like, oh, that's right. I have that. I have a Jurassic Park and a Riddler somewhere in my old room. And I was gonna message her and be like, hey, take a picture. And but then I was thinking, no, because it's not the same. It's one thing if I can like show you the mug right here, but I'm not gonna like show you the picture my mom sent. So I might send it to you later, Corey, if I get it from her. But I did dabble on Batman Forever merchandise. I just completely forgotten about it. All right, well, that's enough of the trailer. Let's move on to the Josh Gad Minute, where we place Josh Gad, patron saint of the Contrarians, in the movie we're discussing, in this case, Batman Forever. And the possibilities are endless because Josh Gad can do over the top. He can. It wouldn't be a stretch for him to fit in the world of Batman Forever. So, Corey, you get first pick. You're the guest. You knew this was coming, so it has to have cross your mind. Like, what were you gonna propose as far as the Josh Gad character here?
So, I have two potential options that I think would be really entertaining within a modern perspective. One, oh God, why am I blanking on his name? I know this man's name. The actor who plays Jim Carrey's boss at Wayne.
Ed Begley
Jr.
Begley Jr., yes. I think Josh Gad would knock that shit out of the fucking park. The other one, I'm not even going to lie. I don't know her name. She is the hotter of the two. But not Drew Barrymore, but the other Two-Face girl. Put Josh Gad in that role.
Debbie Mazar.
I think half of Tommy Lee Jones might like The Boys. So, I think Josh Gad would knock that shit out of the park. Like the scene with the pig where she's presenting the pig that she cooked for him. Put Josh Gad in that role. You sold me. I'm down. Tommy Lee Jones would hit that in a second.
That's funny because I thought I was going to be really bold by suggesting he replace Drew Barrymore, but you already got there.
Well, I mean, like, that's Drew Barrymore. She's a national treasure. You can't do that. She's got a lip, Julio. That would be a hate crime to replace her.
All right. Well, while I scramble to pick a different character, Alex, what do you have?
I mean, I wasn't going to go as far as replacing one of the Two-Face gals, but I thought from the tone of the movie and whatnot, and also because Gordon really doesn't have anything to do in this, so Pat Hingle I'd probably replace, and like specifically because I was thinking about when Chase Meridian turns the bat signal on to lure in Batman, and Gordon comes up like in his pajamas, and he's like, "What's going on?" I could just see like Josh Gad wandering into frame, really frantic and confused in that situation. And just for like the tone of the movie, we'd be talking about like present day Gad, obviously not like younger teenage Gad, but you could get him like a mustache or something, and I think he could blend into the Schumacher universe here
easily.
Yeah,
I think
he would have much better sexual tension with Chase Meridian, so that woman on the roof, when she turns on the bat signal, would have a lot more layers to it.
Yeah, he shows up, and I think he would make Commissioner Gordon memorable in a way that he isn't. And we talked a little bit about it on the episode. this is mostly in Contrarians Corner, where I was saying, this is not a movie that needs Gordon to play a bigger role, that needs Gordon to be crucial to the story the way that other Batman movies are. Like this movie already has a lot going on. That said, like Pat Hingle is in 4 Batman movies, and honestly, I couldn't tell you anything he does in any of them, beyond being kind of like there in the background. And that's not a criticism. I mean, that's
He's
obviously
horny
a choice.
in most of them.
Yeah, I like his hat. I like that he's always wearing the hat. But I don't know. I mean, do you guys have? I think maybe Gary Oldman ruined it for all of us, because now he's just kind of the canon Gordon, and he's the take charge Gordon that's going to have his own plot line and his his story arc. It's now Commissioner Gordon has to have a big part in Batman stories. But I don't know. Do you guys think that the first 4 Batman movies, Burton's and Schumacher's, would benefit if you kind of modulate things, or some elements maybe decrease, but you give Gordon a little more prominence? Like, or are we fine with Commissioner Gordon being in the background and being just this minor character?
Alex, you first.
I don't know about minor. I mean, Gary Oldman. It's also because Gary Oldman's fucking Gary Oldman, so that's a bit different. It's all due respect to Pat Hingle here. He's not Gary Oldman. Tonally, specifically for this movie, we're talking about the Schumacher ones. I don't know if it would make sense for us to have these, like I said, side quests with Commissioner Gordon.
In the TV show, the 60s TV show, the Commissioner Gordon, I think all I remember is his thing was that he would call. He would he had the red
bat phone.
Yeah, he had the bat phone, and that was the thing. And he would have like some sort of funny exchange with Batman or Bruce Wayne, maybe once per episode, and that was it. So that's kind of how I rationalized it. He was not like a big deal in the visual medium until, I guess the animated series. And of course, in the comics, he was. But I don't know, Corey, feelings. I don't know why. I'm starting to get the feeling that you're not a fan of Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon.
Oh, no. I mean, like, I do like Gary Oldman's Commissioner Gordon. Like, in terms of narrative, for the first 2 movies, he serves the function of those films very well. And I think that he does, obviously. He's Gary Oldman. I'm never, like, I don't even like Harry Potter movies, okay? But, like, he is fucking awesome in those movies, all right? I have a very specific version of Commissioner Gordon that I respond to. And, like, these 90s movies, they're not that, It's like neither Tim Burton or Joel Schumacher really give a fuck about Commissioner Gordon. And for, like, Burton, it's because, and he said this later on, and, like, if you've ever watched An Evening with Kevin Smith, you know what I'm about to say. He's never read a Batman comic before, And with Joel Schumacher, the period in which he was reading Batman comics, Gordon wasn't that significant a character. Like, the reality of it is, Gordon only became a significant character after Frank Miller did Batman Year One.
Right.
Like, that is when Gordon became a character, not just a fulcrum or not just, like, a narrative device. Gary Oldman is great, but if I had to pick, I don't know if either of you have actually seen the animated version of Batman Year One, but Bryan
Cranston, right?
Bryan Cranston as Commissioner Gordon, the freaking Navy SEAL who is sent to Gotham and is, like, mortally compromised but trying to be the best man that he can. Like, that is the definitive Jim Gordon for me. Despite the fact that, like, Jim Gordon in the animated series is phenomenal. Like, everything they do with that character is great. And I love every episode that he's in, that he has part in. But, like, when I think of Jim Gordon, it's one of the reasons why, like, season 1 of the show Gotham works for me, whereas a lot of the other seasons don't, is because that idea of this man who is dead set on a mission to save a city that can't be saved. Like, he will fail. And that eventually that will lead him to making, like, an alliance with Batman. Like, the complexity of that is so intrinsic to the way I view that character, it's hard to separate myself from it. So yeah, like in these movies, Gordon's barely a character.
Yep.
Like again, he in the first two movies, he's there for narrative progression. And after that, he's just there because they're like, we can get Alfred back and we can get Commissioner Gordon back, and that's going to make people think these are all in the same world. So, like, we should do that. But yeah.
Oh, the Batgirl thing, I just realized, yeah, he's so unimportant that when they finally introduce Batgirl in the fourth movie, they make her Alfred's niece. Not Gordon's.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and it's just like, in the comic, she has never been Gordon's niece. She's never been Alfred's niece. But yeah, this version of Gordon is so inconsequential that, like, no, fuck him. He's there to deliver exposition.
Well, as we wrap up the Josh Gad Minute, I'll just say, look, if we're gonna gender swap, Josh Gad as Chase Meridian, and now you're throwing Batman Forever in a completely different direction. But I would love to see it. That's
Val Kilmer and Josh Gad
connecting on a deeper level.
No, fuck that. Just give us the sex scene. I'm down for that. Who doesn't want to see that? Just Josh Gad biting the fucking pillow. While Val Kilmer's in the bat suit from like the head to the waist. And from the rest of it, it's just his glistening pure butt.
So what happens is he shows up at midnight and she doesn't turn him away after the kiss. Instead, they have sex. So Josh Gad and Kilmer's Batman have sex. You know, he keeps a cowl on. And then after, then Gad says, you know what, I am in love with Bruce Wayne. And then, you know, Batman leaves. So that way you get everything. The story's still the same, but you get the sex scene there. Yeah.
That's like the real Schumacher cut.
All right. Let's move on to trivia, Alex.
Okay, so I mean, we talk about a lot of like the surrounding details in the episode, so this will be a little bit more loosey goosey. Do need to bring up the reason for the season being the MTV Movie Awards at the 1996 MTV Movie Awards from Burbank, hosted by Ben Stiller and Janine Garofalo. Batman Forever had a good amount of nominations, a strong contender, but no buckets of golden popcorn went home with them. Nominations included Most Desirable Male for Val Kilmer, Most Desirable Female, obviously, for Nicole Kidman. Both Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones received Best Villain nominations, both losing out to Christopher Plummer for 7. And then I fixate on this in the episode probably too much. Both the U2 song, which isn't good, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, and Kiss from a Rose were nominated for Best Song, but both lost out to Brandy, Sitting Up in My Room from Waiting to Exhale, which of those songs, Kiss from a Rose is the one I still hear regularly on the radio. We did talk about this too. Dangerous Minds, of course, Gangsta's Paradise by Coolio. That song is pretty sure he won an Oscar for Best Original Song for that.
Really?
I think so. I think so, and most people don't even know that it's like a cover song.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a cover song. Dude, I mean...
I'm sorry, it wasn't the Oscar, it was the Grammy. He took home the Grammy for it. That was the
Grammy
one. Yeah.
But no, yeah, it's a cover song for Ghetto Paradise.
Okay, so he did tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
Alex, all your dismissiveness of the U2 song might go away, or at least you might be a little more open-minded if you watch the music video, which I did a couple days ago when I was editing. Because that music video is amazing. It's animated.
And doesn't have clips from the movie interwoven in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Kiss from a Rose video is Seal performing in front of the bat signal because it used to be better. That was the year the Lifetime Achievement Award went to Godzilla. And Best New Filmmaker, who's in headlines this week with his latest release, Wes Anderson, won for Bottle Rocket, one of his 2 good movies. So there you go. So Batman Forever, we mentioned June 16th of 1995, a budget of an estimated $100 million, took home close to $340, did quite well for itself. In the episode, it's all there. The can't sanction your buffoonery, the Schumacher cut, some of the tensions on set. It's all detailed there. So I felt like what I wanted to focus on here to close out our trivia portion was, first of all, the toy aspect of things, because Corey kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. A big controversy, not controversy, just more Warner Brother lost out on money. Batman Returns initially was going to have like a Happy Meal toy line and be a bit more focused on the marketing towards children. If you've seen Batman Returns, that is not a kids movie. And McDonald's even pulled like the toys because the movie was so dark and whatnot. So there was a concentrated effort from Warner Brothers with Batman Forever to make it more accessible in that way of marketing and franchising. And I mean, Corey mentioned it. He's got the McFarlane ones. I remember having the actual like contemporary releases of the toys at the time. And, yeah, you said you had the Christmas that was very Batman Forever heavy. And yeah, I talked about McDonald's glasses. Corey, do you have the Batmobile on your person there?
Yes, I do. I mean, mind you, it's the modern Batmobile, not the one that was released when the movie was released.
No, yeah,
and unfortunately, my lighting does not show the glow in the dark aspect where all the undercarriage glows in the dark. But yeah, I've got it, and my Batman figure and my Robin figure fit in it.
So that's I mean, speaking of contemporary or like a modern release, the most recent entry into the Batman arcade video game franchise, whatever, you know, the legacy, the lineage, is that driving game where you drive the Batmobile. And the coolest thing about that game is it has every Batmobile that's been on television or the silver screen. And I remember the first time I played it, I took the Batman Forever one out because it's got like, it, you know, it looks like a fucking mohawk coming out the back. But yeah, that game's a lot of fun. And speaking of arcade games, this is kind of where I wanted to take this, was that Batman Forever had several video game releases. It had the pinball machine, which came out, which I have played. I think the pinball's the big location over off 183 has that. So I've played that. I've never played actually the cabinet of the Batman Forever arcade game. They did port it, and Julio, you and I have talked about it. It was not good.
So that's the one that looks like Mortal Kombat. That has
where they had like the digital captures of people actually like doing shit and whatnot. I know I've watched it before. There are videos about it, and you know, like there's a comprehensive deep dives about why it was so bad and kind of like what the idea was of how it was gonna, you know. At this time, also, it's from Acclaim, so it's important to call out that in '95, Acclaim also did WrestleMania, the arcade game, which is kind of infamous in wrestling circles because they tried to basically mimic the Mortal Kombat style of like capturing movements of the wrestlers, like video captures and stuff, and then make the action really like over the top and whatnot. So Acclaim was all in on this idea of the wave of the future, you know, video capturing and fucking. But I've played it like once. I probably played like the port for Genesis or some shit. But I just remember like the collision detection being awful and like trying to jump over people was impossible. And
using your gadgets was a pain in the ass. That's what I remember. Like you started the game by selecting stuff, and I could never figure out how to use it. So it's like, what's the point? I was just punching my way through a bunch of digitized goons.
No, yeah, you would choose your grappling hook, and then you would shoot it, and you would go about like an inch, and then somebody would knock you on your ass. Like, yeah, I had that game for Sega. Like, no, yeah, it sucked. It looked really good. Mm-hmm. It sucked
ass. The cabinet looks awesome. Like I said, I've never played it, so I'd never seen it before. But like you have the light up marquee with the five main actors in this, and the control panel is the green and blue bat signal, or bat logo, I should say, and the side paneling of it has a really badass picture of Val Kilmer in the obviously in the Batman suit. So the cabinet looks dope as fuck. I've never seen one in real life. But yes, the arcade game was ported to MS-DOS, PlayStation, and of course the Sega Saturn. And the way video games worked back then was a little bit different, kids. It didn't come out for 9 months until after the movie. It came out in March of 1996. And then we had, of course, Batman Forever. The real game begins was the tagline for it. And it was for...
to make sure you don't give a shit anymore.
Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Game Gear, Game Boy. And those, of course, all staggered throughout 95, the release of those. So we were a long ways away from Arkham City and the Batman video games that were game changers in every sense of the word. Trying to remember if any of the... I remember the Batman game in 89 for regular Nintendo was impossible.
Yeah.
Like, that game was very fucking hard.
It's very hard, but that is a fucking great game, man.
It's one of the better looking NES games. Just like the colors they were able to use and like the sprites and stuff. It looks great.
And if you put enough time into it, like, you can beat that fucker. I've beaten that fucker, and I suck at video games.
It takes a while, though, because it's one of those where you just basically have to do it in one sitting. And it's so hard that, you can get stuck there for hours.
The nice thing about modern day is when you, like, download a port for your computer, you can save the game. So, I should say, I didn't beat it when I was a kid. I beat it when I was, like, 19 and playing it on a fucking computer. But, like, it's a fire-ass game, for sure. Ahead of its time.
Probably the best game I remember playing as a kid, and I didn't have a Super Nintendo, but the Adventures of Batman and Robin, based off the animated series for Super Nintendo, that game fucking ruled. That would probably be from my childhood the most fond memories I have of a Batman video game. I did have Batman Returns for Game Gear, and that was a lot of fun.
That was like a beat 'em up, right? Because that was like just a portable version of the one that we had on NES and Genesis. So it's just I just
remember like fighting Catwoman. She would have her whip and hit you like twice, and you died. And of course, like you talked about those games, then you just all right. The game restarts, and you have to fucking go do it all over again. So there's a lot to talk about this movie. We've done a good job of that here, and as far as some of the other bits of trivia and kind of lore surrounding that, we got you covered in the episode proper. Just to close here, Corey, because you have mentioned you have seen the Schumacher cut. There's been the recent, not recent, it's happened repeatedly, but the controversy of Warner Brothers finding out about these would-be screenings of the movie, shutting it down and whatnot. Do you personally, from your memory of seeing it, do you think it's worth like the fight of getting it out there so people can see it? Or is it more of just kind of like a novelty?
No, I mean, okay, so yeah, I do think so. I do think that it is worth giving it its time in the sun. Because, again, it's like people think of Joel Schumacher's Batman in a very specific way. And the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever completely dispels that idea. Like, when he came into this franchise, he did want to do something special that had, like, very strong character and narrative directions. And that's just not something that the studio was interested in. And there are scenes in that movie. I want to say it's better, but I want to relate it because I know Julio will understand what I'm saying. Maybe you will also, Alex. The difference between the Daredevil director's cut and the theatrical cut, okay? I'm not going to say that either of those movies are technically great Daredevil movies, but there's a big fucking difference.
Yeah.
And the director's cut is a superior film if you just like take it on its own merits. But with the Schumacher cut, the reason why I say it's not technically on the same level is that like the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever, while the director's cut of Daredevil, like, it's a better movie, but I don't I still don't think it really understands the character of Daredevil. I think the Schumacher cut understands the character of Batman in a much more significant way. Like, because you have so many other things in that cut of the movie. Like, not only do you have, the Frank Miller, this fucker right here, like the demon bat that comes and possesses Batman and creates this, like, almost like weird split personality type aspect to the character that he has to reconcile throughout the movie. Again, like I said before, you also have to deal with him coming to terms with the idea of him being a murderer. And that's something that in the Schumacher cut is much more pronounced. You also have to deal with, like, the city is, while the city has benefited from Batman, and that's shown in these, like, weird Frank Miller talking head segments, they're also turning against him in the sense that, like, they feel like all these, it's the classic, like, typical Batman thing in comics of, like, the idea that because Batman exists, villains will rise to oppose him. And then kind of challenging the idea of, like, well, if you weren't here, maybe these fuckers wouldn't be coming out of the woodwork to fight you or try to kill you. And so it creates all these different layers that force Batman to come to terms with like, not only who he is, but what his actual function is. And, like, it's just a deeper, more fulfilling movie. And that's, like, again, for me seeing it in a version that went from, like, oh, this looks like the movie, to this is, like, a little bitty box with a time code on it where Alfred and Batman are talking about the nature of being Batman, whereas, like, in the movie, basically, like, one of the best ones I can think of is after the scene with Dick where he saves Batman and he comes back to the Batcave and he's like, you can't stop me. And Bruce is like, I can stop you. The next thing we cut to is just a shot of, like, him watching Chase Meridian on a screen, and there's, like, 3 minutes cut out of that scene where it's just him and Alfred watching news segments about people talking about Batman and the effect he's had on the city, and Bruce trying to come to terms with, like, his place, and Alfred trying to mitigate that or trying to, like, lead him to a better version of himself. And those are things that I think, like, really matter. Like, they take it closer to the Burton movies in terms of tone, and at the same time they're doing something that literally at the time no superhero movie did, which is why they're cut. It's why the studio was like, yeah, fuck that shit. No, nobody wants to see that. But, like, yeah, that's stuff that at the time we didn't get out of comic book movies, and if we had, I think it would have changed the trajectory of what comic book movies would have become.
I think it probably gives that final bit in the climax a lot more weight. That's something I brought up in Real Talk. I'm like, his realization, his declaration that he doesn't have to choose, that he's both Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
It never, I enjoy the movie, but it never feels like that was something that we were dealing with during the movie. So when we get to it at the end, like, that kind of comes out of nowhere. At the end, that he was, that was part of his, that was going through his head during the story, right? And then
It's
suddenly
a hard thing to mix with Tommy Lee Jones going, "Open Sesame." So I think there's
But at the same time, you got to keep in mind that, like, the original Tim Burton Batman, where Michael Keaton, it's the first time that Batman and Bruce Wayne had a different voice.
Yeah.
Like, there was a distinction between those characters that was made in these movies that led up to what the Schumacher cut really deals with. And then kind of creates, which again goes back to the thing I was saying that Julio hates. Where, like, there is a synthesis, where, like, there is a character arc for Bruce Wayne and Batman throughout these 4 movies. And by the time you get to the end of it, it is a very different character. But if you actually watch the development of that character throughout the films, especially if the Schumacher cut had been allowed to be what it was intended to be, like, there's something really substantial there that says something about this character. And I think that, again, the fact that, like, this is the 30th anniversary, they're releasing a 30th anniversary edition. and it's not the fucking Schumacher cut,
Yeah.
eat a fucking dick, Warner Brothers. Like, what the fuck are you doing right now? Zack Snyder gets his own cut of Justice League, and Schumacher doesn't get his Batman cut, even though he's fucking dead. But I guess, like, his fans aren't as big of dickheads on the internet, so, you know.
I'm preaching to the choir. We're waiting for our 3-hour cut of the black and white 3-hour cut of Black Dahlia.
Black Dahlia.
So, yeah, so
Give me that
Yeah,
double
yeah.
feature. Black Dahlia leading into the Schumacher cut of Batman Forever. Just
I'm there for the black and white Black Dahlia cut.
Hmm.
I mean, Josh Hartnett is fine.
he makes out with a bat in that director's cut.
There you go. All right, Julio. So Batman Forever, between this and the episode, I mean, it's all there. So that's what's out now. What's coming up next?
Coming up next, we continue our journey through MTV Movie Award nominees and winners. This one is a winner. It had a bunch of nominations. It won for Best Female Performance. We're talking about Romeo plus Juliet, or full title, William Shakespeare's Romeo plus Juliet.
More like Borophil.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes, and just if you thought that Batman Forever was stacked with its cast, just wait until you start watching Romeo and Juliet from 1996, right?
No shit, yeah.
And it's just like every new shot brings you a new actor that either was already established or would go on to become a big star down the line.
And after years of shit talking, it's finally time for Baz Luhrmann. It's his turn on the Contrarians.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's like when we did the Neon Demon, it was like it had to happen. You know, eventually you talk enough shit about a movie or a filmmaker, it has to make its way to the main feed. Corey, are you a Baz Luhrmann fan?
I don't know if I go that far, but I will say I hate how much I love this movie. Like, dude, John Leguizamo as Tybalt. Like, first off, Romeo and Juliet is my least favorite Shakespeare work. Okay, especially because it is so misinterpreted as like this great romantic comedy, as opposed to being the tragedy that it really is about these two horny teenagers who destroy the lives of everyone around them. But like, yeah, dude, like fucking John Leguizamo as Tybalt, Prince of Cats, is fucking exquisite. It's like the best Mercutio I've ever seen on film. Not just because he wears drag, but just the performance in of itself is just. It's got Paul Rudd in it. God damn it!
Yes,
he looks 11, but it's got Paul Rudd in it. You know, like this movie is so fucking stupid, but I enjoy it so much, and I hate that a little bit. Like the pretentious artist part of me is just like, fuck you, dude. You're a piece of shit. You're fake. You're a phony.
Well,
many more comments like that to come in the episode.
Yes. One of Alex's arch enemies, Baz Luhrmann, brings us his second feature film, and that's fresh. So Contrarians Corner is going to be all about us nitpicking that, and then on Real Talk, we'll try to make sense of it and see if we like it or not. But check out Romeo plus Juliet. It's on Hulu right now, but it's also available everywhere. And you don't need to be familiar with the Shakespeare play, although it probably helps. So it also, and we say it on the episode, it will close our Romeo and Juliet trilogy. We started years and years ago with Shakespeare in Love, then followed up a few months ago with West Side Story, and now the real deal, Romeo plus Juliet, as seen through the eyes of a celebrated Australian filmmaker, just the way it was intended. So check out Romeo and Juliet. Check out Batman Forever if for some reason you haven't yet. Thank you for listening to the episode, checking out the video. Corey, thank you for joining us here, providing your expertise and your showing off your Batman properties. And thank you, everybody else. There's the phallic Batmobile again. That's it. We'll talk to you again later. Bye.
Take care.
Later.